Welcome to the current podcast. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Sports Wave. This is your producer Byron. We have Mauricio in the building,
What's
and we
good?
have
How we doing,
Manny in the
everybody?
building.
I'm
Hey,
not used
how's
to
it
being on
going, you
this side. It's
guys?
been a while. I've been on this side, but here
I
I am.
know,
What's good? How's
man.
everybody doing?
He
Sports
wanted
Wave.
he wanted to be next to me, you guys.
Pretty much, you know what I
He-
mean?
He missed me. That's the real excuse.
You know, if Enzo's not here, I gotta pick up the slack. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? This is Sports Wave Monday right here, as Byron likes to call it. Episode 67, guys. It's pretty crazy how we're getting deeper and deeper. Before
Pause.
we know it, we'll be at episode 100 on a Sports Wave, man. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm excited.
I
to get
still-
to that mark.
I still remember the day where Manny gave me the brilliant idea. If he was like, "We gotta separate sports, man. Like people are
Yeah.
not gonna."
It's because
dig
it
it
was
like
so
that, so-
convoluted, man. We were doing sports and all these current events,
Straight
and it was
up.
like a 2-hour podcast of convoluted information. and I was
I
like,
remember that.
nah,
Yeah.
man. If we're just gonna talk about sports and our opinions on sports, like let's do something different, man.
Yeah,
And we, we kept it with the theme, since we live in California, our theme is the ocean in a sense. The thing of the currents, it's all within the theme of our name. So
yeah, it's
all-
crazy how
like
that can be.
Enzo would like to say, it's all connected.
it
It is all connected. It is all connected. Well, what I would like to say though is that now we're gonna speak about some sports that's been going on. But I want to talk about something very specific. Going on with this is Canelo's next 2 fights coming up.
Exactly. This is
Ooh.
very interesting because he's double booked.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like he's already feels like I might.
You think it's
win
one
the
of those-
first one, and then it was like that last fight he had where he was already promoting his next fight.
Exactly.
During that fight, it's kind of like he's already so cocky that he's like, I got this. I could win this. This is not an issue. This is not a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know how you feel about it because I remember you were telling me that one of these fights, if I'm not mistaken, is with Triple G, right?
Yeah, the second one.
So this would be their trilogy, right?
Yeah,
Or-
and the crazy thing is, you can say it is kind of a tune-up fight, you could say, but at the same
Yeah.
time, in May he's gonna fight for a light heavyweight championship like that, something like that.
so he's going up in weight.
Yeah, but it's not a drastic amount in boxing. It's like a couple pounds,
It's
but it's
about
still,
five,
but
right?
it's still
a
division.
5-pound difference.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So he's gonna possibly he's gonna possibly win a title there, and then I think return a couple pounds lower to I think it was the middleweight title with Triple G. I'm gonna look that up right now just to double check. But
Yeah,
yeah,
'cause-
Canelo is
Yeah, but that's a cocky move as a fighter to do. Double book yourself and just have that kind of like confidence to be like, hey, I'm gonna win this fight and I'm gonna win the next one. Which is what he's been doing. He's been winning fights after another, and the question mark has always been like, all right, who is he gonna face that might be a real challenge for him? Because even like when we're watching or we think like, oh, someone's a challenge for him, but out of nowhere he does something different. Out of nowhere he just elevates his game, and then you're like, oh no, this person wasn't really on his level. Which
Yeah.
is just really sometimes you're like, whoa, like you would love to see someone that's on his level in a sense.
yeah.
But-
So he has 2 fights booked. The first one will be on May 7th, coming up in a couple months.
And that's the light heavyweight. That you
Yeah,
just
it's saying
mentioned,
light
right?
heavyweight against the light heavyweight title holder Dmitry Bivol, and in return, that's 175 pounds in boxing, by the way.
Okay.
So that's where he's fighting there.
So he's going from 165 to 175, or
yeah, because that was about the weight class, right? Because he would be fighting Kamaru Usman if it would have been nice. Yeah, so
yeah.
I don't know exactly what division that is. I would say it's middleweight. So that fight on May 7th, and then on September 17th, he's gonna be fighting at 168 pounds.
Oh wow, that's
And
a
that's-
less. Yeah, that's,
and
not
that's,
even a huge difference.
I mean, it doesn't say exactly what it is here, but yeah, to defend his 168-pound titles against Triple G.
So 168 and the other one's 175. Yeah,
Yes.
that's not a lot.
It's not
Not a
like
difference,
a big
yeah.
difference. He's gonna cut some weight
Yeah.
for Triple G, and I feel like that's kind of, in a sense, Mark's got to be a little faster than Triple G.
Mm.
But it's been a couple years, so Triple B might be a little slower. So that's what's coming up for Canelo later on
You
this
guys
year.
happen to know when was the last time Triple G fought?
Triple G not too long ago, I believe. I'm gonna look that up right now.
And Maury was telling me last time we talked, that Triple G actually put up a decent fight against him.
Both of those times.
And then he believes that the first one was it the first one?
Oh
you
yeah,
said?
that one. That
That
one
you
was
felt like
that
it
one was a
was
tie.
more like it should have been a tie instead of a win.
It was a tie, but it should have been ruled.
So they fought back in 2017 in the
Triple
T-Mobile
G's
Arena, and that there was a draw right there, Canelo versus Triple G, and then Triple G went on to fight Vanes Martirsorian, here in California, and he beat him. Then went on to fight Canelo again 2018 in September, and that is when they call it a loss in the T-Mobile Arena, and that is the middleweight division at 168. And then after that, Triple G has fought 3 times, 2019, twice in 2019, and once in 2020, and he's won all 3 of them. So he hasn't fought in 2021, but maybe it's because he was waiting for this.
Interesting.
So
do you think it might be like the Julia Pena effect, where he's trained the whole entire year, but up to this fight?
it could work to that effect, but at the same time, I mean, if we look at Canelo's side, he's been very active himself.
No, he's been very active for sure.
Now, if we're talking about the level of competition, I just feel like in boxing, it's just a whole different thing when it comes to competing and all that stuff. But if we take a look at Canelo since Triple G, he had those fights back to back. He didn't fight anybody in between. He fought Rocky Felding, Daniel Jacobs, which is a more of a known name, Sergey Kovalev, Caleb Smith, Avin Yildirimli, which I think was the fight where he was promoting his next fight, which was with Billy Joe Saunders, because it was in the same year. I remember we were watching that. It was on the 27th of February, which we're almost getting their year anniversary from there. And then he fought Caleb Plant. So he's had, since Triple G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7, 8 fights.
And he's won all of them.
All of them. Yeah. By TKO. I don't see any of them going to decision, because he knocked out Billy Joe Saunders, too.
Yeah, he usually does it before the 12th round. So,
what does RTD mean on this graph that I'm looking at here? But yeah, that's what Canelo got for us. But moving forward to baseball, we have Trevor Bauer facing no charges for.
This is interesting to me, because I'm like, all right, the Dodgers are in debt because of the contract they gave him. So I'm wondering, will the Dodgers take him back?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would love for them to.
I mean, he's a great pitcher.
I think he has to clear things with the MLB as well.
Yeah, I was about to mention.
Right. Say it, Byron.
I don't think he'll be allowed to play yet. I remember seeing him.
He's not eligible yet.
Yeah, I think he has. Like Mauricio said, he would have to clear things with the league.
So yeah, the DA office says that Los Angeles Dodgers Trevor Bauer won't face criminal charges stemming from allegations of sexual assault. But so far, yeah, I think that he's gonna have to wait that out. But it said Bauer, who spent the final 3 months of the 2021 regular season on administrative leave, still faces potential discipline from Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, who has autonomy to hand out suspensions under the domestic violence policy that was previously agreed to jointly with MLB Players Association. Especially because the violation happened within
So they're going to probably try to review the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then see how they got to that ruling, and then determine what type of discipline they give him.
Yep, and the Dodgers owe him $47 million in the 2022 season.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's another reason why I'm wondering, like, will the Dodgers, still try to use him or just part ways with him? But even they still have a huge debt with him.
Yeah.
And that's guaranteed money, which, all right, what else is happening in the MLB?
MLB has agreed on universal DH. They're still, in the middle of how do you say
dispute?
Yeah.
So finding out the kinks of the whole thing,
or of the players' agreement with the MLB, the collective bargaining agreement, as you would say, CBA as the acronym for it. So the players' union has to agree with the league on certain things. And for example, one thing that we spoke about earlier was that the agreement of steroid testing had expired. The agreement they had made, so all those things have to be talked out again. Because technically the players could be like, well, we don't want to agree to that now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're a union and they can band together on that front. But at the same time, they wouldn't want to do that because then people are gonna question the legitimacy of the sport. and whatnot. So all those things are what's going on. The revenue sharing that happens. Obviously, you can never have enough money, but you see what happened for the NBA in a sense, because once they had their lockout and things happened after that, and the TV deals kicked in, um, uh, a low salary player now in the NBA is making easily like $3 million. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And before it wasn't like that. The mid level before was a way different, and I think that's a big thing that these negotiations bring for the players, and sometimes it also sways the way that the league will kind of run, and the reason I say that is because think about how they call the NBA a players driven league, how the players are the ones who dictate where they're going and all that type of stuff, and that's where I think that this whole thing now with the universal DH, which is pitchers won't have to hit in either league, and at the same time I think that's gonna benefit the teams, because you don't have to worry so much about filling up a lot of on your pitching rotation. Because if you think about it, they were getting these pitchers because they have to pitch hit. They have to basically sit down replace the pitcher when he's gonna bat. So they bring in a pinch hitter.
Yep.
And then after that, they have to replace the pitcher with another pitcher. So now with the universal DH, you save
the bullpen of the pitching gets smaller.
It gets smaller, but you're not having to go through them because you don't have them hitting and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah, their hands get rested. They don't have to.
And we kind of
go
saw
out and run. And
we saw the effect of it, but you also just sometimes you have to burn a pitcher because you don't want them to hit, and it's not even because they're not fatigued, but just because of the rotation and everything. You want to get a better hit out of a good hitter compared to a pitcher, which they just don't practice hitting.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So it's gonna be the new thing in MLB.
The interesting thing becomes what happens to Ohtani.
That doesn't affect Ohtani. You gotta remember he was already in the AL where the DH already existed, and that doesn't do anything. That doesn't hurt him at all. If anything, that just when he's not pitching, he gets to hit, and he doesn't have to worry about playing a field position. He just has to hit.
So he can continue hitting his home runs and break records.
Yeah, that doesn't affect Ohtani in any way possible.
I gotta ask, man.
If anything, it opens up the door for pitchers in the National League to do this, because they'll be able to hit when they don't pitch and not have to worry about being a field player, because you're a designated hitter.
Okay.
And I don't think that we're gonna start seeing a trend of this, but at the same time, that's the Ohtani effect that the DH gives. He can be in his normal rotation, and when he's not, he can have a rotation of when he goes to hit.
Interesting.
And again, he doesn't have to worry about going on the field or pitching and having to be on the lineup like that. It's just designated hitter.
All right.
But in other news, in the how would you say, it's in the football world, the NFL world. Hey, there we go. We had the final game of the NFL season.
So how was that final game? Tell us about it, sir.
Man, well, I was mainly cooking for you and everybody else, so you tell me about
it. Wow. This guy. Tell us about it, Byron, as the LA fan that you are.
LA fan? Fuck out of here with this LA Rams fan that doesn't want to admit it.
Wait, LA fan that you are, bro.
LA Rams fan. This guy right here, Manny, he's a Rams fan, bro, and he just doesn't want to admit it. He's gonna,
he's gonna
down that
tree.
tree.
New viewers, listeners out there, or everybody else out there.
I'm not a Rams fan. I congratulate them because they won it for the city of LA. All right, let's go. Let's break down this game, right? One first thing to point out is there wasn't a lot of penalties during this game. Usually you see a lot of flags.
They let them
throughout
play,
the game,
man.
Huh?
Yeah.
They let them play.
They let them play. Usually in other Super Bowls, it's like flag, for every little thing. And
true.
This game, it was just kind of like, all right.
You know why? Because Tom Brady wasn't playing.
The controversy of Byron.
If Tom Brady was playing, there would be a lot of penalties.
There would be a lot of more flags for his favor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's possible.
He's like,
Because within the first half, there was only 2 penalties. That says a lot about about the game. The other thing that we saw was, I believe the Bengals got the kick. No, the Rams got the touchdown first, right? Or how was it?
Yeah, correct. They scored
Correct,
first.
right? So OBJ ends up getting the catch, right?
Which was a beautiful catch, by the way.
Oh, it was. He gets the catch. He ends up scoring the touchdown. They go up by 7 points.
Correct.
After the Bengals end up just doing a kick, right?
The
and
Bengals.
they get 3 points. And then after that, they scored another touchdown, right?
I believe the Rams scored a few. Oh yeah, they
they
scored a touchdown.
They scored another touchdown.
But they missed they muffled
they muffled the kick.
The kick.
Yeah.
So it looked like a 2-point conversion at first, but how we just said right now, they muffled the kick and then they couldn't convert. So
correct.
It was 13-3, and then
13-3, and then eventually on the second quarter, the Bengals end up scoring their touchdown.
Correct.
And that picks it up to 10.
Halftime, it was 13-10.
Yeah, 13-10. Correct. But then also during that second quarter, we have OBJ getting injured off a non-contact play.
Yeah, correct.
And it was bad because of the way he had to turn his body. So the delivery of the ball forced him to move his body in an unnatural way. And he was trying to catch it. And for trying to catch it, he ends up injuring his leg during the play.
It ended up being him tearing his ACL, and that's the same.
And that's the same one he had already tore prior.
Yeah,
prior
in
to
2020 when he was still with the Browns. So,
he re-injured himself.
Yeah.
So that's
that happened with the Browns?
Yeah.
Yep. He was with the Browns.
That was the Giants.
No,
and coincidentally, guys, when he was with the Browns, he was playing against the Bengals when it happened.
Interesting. So then you have that happen.
Bengals don't like him, huh?
We'll talk about the halftime show after, but then we have third quarter. On
the first drive
of
the Bengals.
Throws a pick,
the
right?
Bengals.
No, he ends up throwing a.
He ends up
throwing a touchdown. It was like a.
It was the runner.
The one with the face mask.
Oh, that was a Jalen Ramsey face mask.
Yeah.
That was dirty.
So then we get a touchdown. It goes up again, and this time it goes to 17.
Yep.
Am I correct up to here, right?
It's 17-13 Bengals.
And 17-13 Bengals. From here,
Bengals.
It goes all that score stays on until the fourth quarter.
Correct.
And then fourth quarter, since I don't understand this stat, right? If you know your running game is trash, and you guys can explain it to me, why do you keep running the ball?
Because you gotta mix it up. You can't just show the defense the same thing over and over again.
The reason I say that, right, is because they did 14 runs, and only gained 12 yards in 14 runs. That was a stat for the Rams, and that's a crazy stat because you're like, dude, any other team would have more yardage for 14 runs. That's horrible. So you end up that happening, and then finally we have the play that had the most penalties in the fourth quarter.
The Rams had a total of 43 rushing yards.
So that last play that got us the pointage. You end up seeing, basically them throwing so many penalties, and then our only option, since he's the wide receiver, is Kupp, and then that's who we kept throwing to, and he was doing all he can, but finally he caught it. Finally he got the touchdown, and you end up seeing them go up to how much was the pointage?
But before that, I believe they scored a field goal because it was 17-13. Then the Bengals scored a field goal. It was 20-13, and then the Rams scored a field goal. So it was 16-20. So then that's when you're talking about
Okay.
the touchdown they did.
Okay.
They eventually went up to by like 3, right?
Yeah.
I believe so.
And so the game, since the game was kind of wild, and Matthew Stafford threw these picks, but he still had three touchdowns.
We can't forget the game-winning play of ceiling.
It was Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
It was Aaron Donald. I mean, Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald.
I'm gonna say this. Aaron Donald. First of all, when he throws him off the sideline.
Yep.
Right, because that's where he begins. I believe this is like early fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. That
where they ticked him off.
Yeah, no, that moment where he throws Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
From the sideline, where Joe Burrow tries to run it, and he throws him. He tackles him.
He pushes him out.
But he pushes him out,
and it kind of looks aggressive. In a sense.
And the whole team goes. They're about to fight. But I believe that moment is what changed the game right there, because then from that moment on, Aaron Donald was so aggressive on Burrow, because I kept telling you guys, if they don't stop Burrow, this team is gonna win it. Like, I saw the Bengals, like, the way they were going at it. One thing that the Bengals have is heart.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. I'm sorry, I know the Rams won, but they don't have heart like that. Like, to, like, get themselves out of the mud and be like, which is what you saw of Aaron Donald in those last minutes, where he was like, nah, I am not about to lose this when I'm this close. And he became that motivation for the team, where he brought out his heart and he was like, we're going to win this. So you saw that, and I was like, okay, cool. He throws him off the sidelines. And then not only that, he also, you have that other play where he almost messes up Burrow's knee.
Right.
And then you have the most famous play where he actually gets the stop.
Yeah.
And then from there on
the 4th and 1, when the game and the season was on the line.
Yeah. So he ends up getting that stop, a minute left, and they're just like, you know what? The Rams won it. So
he even was celebrating after the sack. He's like, ring.
He's like, ring in my I need my ring.
Sealed it.
So congratulations to Aaron.
I think he should have been MVP, but Cooper Kupp got the MVP. Got 2 touchdowns, 92 yards.
Cooper's story is crazy, bro. I mean, to go to not be scouted in high school, to not get anybody from college to take you, and still make it to the NFL, bro. Like,
NFL?
Huh?
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and I've
had
him on my fantasy team for 3 years straight.
It's crazy. He's
it was a damn shame
receiver,
too,
bro,
because also in the previous Super Bowl where they were at the Coliseum, he was injured. He wasn't able to play in that one.
Oh, when they played against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bro. The other thing is,
when they used to play in the Coliseum is what
I heard also too, which that's another thing that's crazy to me, is how his wife,
supported him up the butt.
Yeah, basically paid for his college thing when he did finally get into college and was able to play for school. She's the one that was working in order to support and pay all that.
Sick.
And now it's like, now that he's made it to the league, like the reward, like how like she helped him out to get there, and now she reaps the reward of him. Like,
she gets half.
That's I think it's a dope thing.
She gets half.
Yeah, I know she does. That's if she leaves.
Not even then she gets half, bro. What you mean? She's like, yoink. Well, yeah, and then Taylor Rapp also proposes to his girlfriend. He's a safety for the Rams.
Correct. Yeah.
He proposed and he's getting married. Van Jefferson,
number 12.
He became a dad. His wife had to leave in the middle of the game.
Her water broke,
and she told everybody not to tell him. So he didn't find that until the end of the game.
And then you see that footage of him just running out.
And he got a police escort to the hospital. So that's dope. That's dope. So, that's the story. What a day for him if you think about it, man.
His son was born at 9 p.m.
His son was born the day he won the Super Bowl, bro. Like,
yeah.
That's
two celebrations in one.
But something that I really want to talk about was that halftime show, man, was probably the best one that I've seen in my lifetime.
Well, it's close to home. It represents our city, represents who we are in L.A. Having Dr. Dre having Eminem, having
Dogg.
Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg.
All we
Mary
needed
J.
was
Blige,
all we
and
needed was
50
Ice
Cent.
Cube. Ice Cube was missing there.
Yeah, that would have completed it.
That's
even
what
more.
I felt like.
Yo,
man.
and then the Rams came out to a song of Nipsey Hussle too. I don't know.
Got to. They gotta
They
show
came
homage.
out to
They
the
gotta
song
show
of
homage.
Nipsey. So
Gotta
that's
show homage,
another
man, you know what I'm
thing
saying?
where, like, they were really, you know, representing the LA, you know, and I really love that. I really love like their whole design of the set, how the floor was like LA County, and the whole feel, the songs, you know, all throwbacks. I'm sure there was a lot of kids not even understanding the type of music, and their parents were the ones vibing.
Yeah, there was a lot of that for sure.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised. There's some videos out there like, what are my parents vibing to? You know,
luckily, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I love how even I believe Kendrick does like a different feel to the song that he sang.
Everybody did. Everybody
You know?
did it something different. They have to. It's live.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative performance, so they have to do something different that's gonna stand out and whatnot. And you know, this is coming from other Super Bowls where they have all these drones and all this stuff with Lady Gaga, and they, you know, they paired up with Maroon 5, and like this is the first time where, you know, culturally they went away from the rock and all that stuff, and
pop, you could say.
yeah, and they went towards what's really
the heart of LA.
Not just the heart of LA, but also you got to realize that Jay-Z has taken over the Super Bowl halftime show. So he's the one that's getting everybody together, and so the whole point is to show the culture and the for the minorities and all that stuff too. So that's why we had you know, Dre and Snoop Dogg as like the main thing, you know, while with all these other artists around them. You know what I mean? And usually, you know, they'll maybe throw someone in there, but the headliner was like Maroon 5 or Lady Gaga, you know, stuff.
All right, here's a little curveball.
Katy Perry.
Since you're talking about the Jay-Z is now in charge, just add a food for thought. Do you think J. Cole does a halftime?
I mean, it'd have to
in
be
the future.
It'd have to be a collaborative of people, because I don't think it's ever gonna be just
one artist.
It's gonna be a collaborative of people. So I think it'd be dope to have them, but you know, who you gonna pair them with, who you gonna put them with, and it's also location. So obviously, since we're in LA, that's why we had Dr. Dre and all them.
And Kendrick.
But let's say this next Super Bowl is like in.
And they were all
it's in Arizona.
There's gonna be one soon. That's gonna be in, for example, like in a couple years, gonna go to New Orleans. So you know, we're gonna be in the South. So they can bring Cole there. They can bring, you know, Ludacris and that, you know.
Ludacris was there for that game.
You know, that
well.
whole thing. You know, they could be that kind of type of show. But you know, so it's all about the commercial aspect of it too. So all these songs that we heard are commercially giant, you know.
Yes.
So you know, when it comes to that, I would say that's why I brought up someone like Ludacris, because he has a lot of big commercial songs. Not that J. Cole doesn't, but that can, you know, transcend and still grab that older generation. You know, someone like Ludacris can do that, especially like going somewhere like to the South, and that's not just him alone. Again, that's him putting him out there with someone like Outkast, putting him out there with T.I. Who else is in Atlanta? Migos, there you go, Quavo and those guys, you know. So put that out there, and that can happen too. Rick Ross is from out there, isn't he? Or
he's from Miami, I think.
Miami, but you know, you can still bring him.
All right. So then tell us, you know, who retired, what happened.
Well,
before that, what do you guys? I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think about Eminem taking that knee?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a big FU to the NFL. That's for sure.
I don't know if the audience noticed that, but Eminem took a knee.
They asked him not to as well.
True.
So it's a big FU to.
But
he's
always gonna be a rebel and go to the the controversy.
I thought that.
What do you think about Snoop Dogg taking a hit before his set, huh?
I it was actually in between the sets, but yeah.
I thought he was really focused, you know.
Yeah, really, he
tuned with himself.
He seemed to be in the moment, you know. He was handling it, you know. He nothing fazed him. So, and honestly, another thing I have to say about that is 50 Cent sounds old as shit. So does Dre for the most part. Snoop Dogg, I think, because we hear him so much, he sounds cool. Same. Mary J. Blige was dope. Yeah. Kendrick Lamar was dope. Yeah. The halftime show was dope.
50's more on the heavier side too now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how he was doing that upside down shit.
Did you see the video where he puts himself like that?
Yeah,
Like
that's
he
how
climbs up.
that's how that video is of that song in the club.
No.
It starts off like
I'm
that.
saying, like, have you seen the footage of like, Dre is performing on top, and then while he's performing with Snoop Dogg,
Oh, they're putting him up there.
no, he's putting himself up there. He puts himself up there. Like, it's crazy, dude. But yeah, no, man, all that money he's making from Power, bro. He's making money off of that show.
Producer money.
Yep. So
it's important. Yeah. So besides that, this weekend we also had UFC 271 going on, and we had Casey O'Neill fighting versus Roxanne Modafferi, which was her retirement fight. By the way, Aaron Donald's rumored to be retired. We're still waiting to hear about that. But Roxanne Modafferi did retire. It was her last fight. She fought Casey O'Neill, who was coming on a hot streak, so she was looking to spoil that farewell, if you will. And this was in Houston Toyota Center, where the Rockets play. So with that being said, we're going to be talking about Derek Lewis in a couple of moments. But Casey O'Neill got Roxanne Modafferi her final loss in the UFC. Roxanne Modafferi had, I think, over 50 fights in MMA. So legendary girl there. Thanks the sport, thanks her for sure. Cannonier versus Brunson, man. Brunson was controlling the fight for the most part.
He was taking it to the ground. He was doing everything he could. And you saw that he was controlling it. But it's kind of like he forgot how to stay. I think he's been doing so much groundwork that he's forgotten how to stay on his feet and how to move on his feet. Because you noticed it, especially because Cannonier is a guy that stays on his feet. He doesn't like going to the ground as much.
No, he likes to stand back.
So I think Brunson forgot how to stay on his feet, man. And he
it's because, look, the thing about him, and this is for anybody that's listening, they can go watch ESPN Plus. The UFC has ESPN Plus has something called Detail, and one thing that they detailed out when Brunson fought Adesanya is how he'll wrestle out of desperation. You know, when he feels like he's been touched too many times, or he'll shoot, and he'll be desperate for that takedown. You know, and that can be detrimental there in that aspect. So that's what we saw from Brunson, and Cannonier weathered the storm when it came to the wrestling.
I mean, there was a point where he had him in a rear naked choke, right? Yeah. In one of the rounds, and he survived that for all the seconds. He stayed very calm. He didn't tap. He waited to the round end, and he was like, "All right, we're going to the next one." Yeah, you know, like that. I think that's also at the same time it demoralizes your opponent, because your opponent now begins to think, "Damn, I got him in a rear naked choke, and this guy didn't tap out." Yeah, like what do I do next? Yeah,
exactly. So
it also plays with the mental aspect of you.
Yeah. I mean, and this was Cannonier ended up getting the finish here, and between him and Sean Strickland, who just fought and are top ranked middleweights right now, I'm seeing that this has the possibility right now of basically it being either Sean Strickland versus Cannonier, or Adesanya says, I want to fight in June, by the way. So
that's a quick turnaround time.
Cannonier could be a valuable candidate. So can Sean Strickland.
Yeah, but that's a quick turnaround time to say,
this is
I'm ready in June. That's him saying, like, I didn't even take enough damage from this fight.
I mean, he didn't. I mean, would you say?
I would say he did take damage. I mean, but the fact that he's saying that, it makes it seem like, I didn't take any damage. Like, I'm good to go. You know. The other thing is the hand thing that he was doing, and if we want to go into that, but it's kind of like, did he or did he not get injured? You know.
He said that it was his stance. So
yeah, that he was just fooling him by doing that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
like a tactic.
I love your body, Enzo.
So it's kind of like, we'll see, like, the way he did that.
Yeah, but before we get to that, Tai Tuivasa took on Derek Lewis in his backyard, and Tai Tuivasa,
and I called that,
came in there very relaxed and everything. And Lewis would look good too as starting that off, but he got very tense in there. And
Bam Bam weathered the storm, bro. He weathered the storm. Derek Lewis was throwing bombs, bro. He was throwing kicks. He was throwing bombs at Tai Tuivasa. The difference is Tai Tuivasa can take damage, and he was eating them from Derek Lewis, and he weathered it.
And I don't think that Lewis can't. I think it's just he's gotten to that point of his career where I think he's competed for the title twice now. Fell short against Daniel Cormier. Fell short against Ciryl Gane this past outing, before the year ended, when the year started. Yeah, when the year ended, better said. So, with Derek Lewis, I just see him, especially against Tai Tuivasa, it was a tough matchup because it's someone like him that's not gonna back down, and also Tai Tuivasa hasn't.
That's what I said.
He's going up the ranks, so he's hungrier and whatnot. So I'm not, in a sense, I'm not surprised by it, and I wanted Derek Lewis to win. That's just what I wanted.
He didn't even stay, bro.
It's one of those. It's one of those fights that I have to credit the UFC for, because I love both fighters, and putting this matchup together is just genius, and it makes sense. And now it puts Lewis in a weird position, but now Tuivasa's now in this conversation of putting up against someone like even a Stipe Miocic, even I wouldn't go as far as a John Jones, but even a Ciryl Gane, Tuivasa, see what he can do with him.
I think John Jones eats him alive.
No, for sure. But you put him in that conversation now because he just took out a two-time
top
title contender.
Yeah.
Someone that challenged for the title on multiple occasions. And
so
that still has technically...
Is he a journeyman now?
And he still has a win over Francis Ngannou, the current champion.
So do you think that he's a journeyman now, or do you think he can get himself back up there?
It depends, man. There's a lot of things coming up in the heavyweight division. So if he's able to kind of play that role of you could say the gatekeeper role for a little bit, he'll be able to make his way back in there. But until then, it could be a tough uphill battle, Yeah, there was a fight that happened. Okay, yeah, the one that I was going to talk to you guys about that happened earlier in the fight was Mana Martinez versus Ronnie Lawrence. This fight was crazy, man. Just a barn burner in the sense that they were just going back and forth at it. Happened in the early prelims. And this was a bantamweight fight. And Mana Martinez was also from Houston. And he came in there very confident, very cocky. And Ronnie Lawrence, which is more of a wrestler, grappler type of dude, he dropped him multiple times with his hands. And it was just interesting how at one point, I think they're in the third round, Mana Martinez was able to catch Ronnie Lawrence, which would take a back fist, spinning back fist, and it just threw Ronnie Lawrence into another kind of dimension type of thing. And then he even spoke about how because Ronnie was the one who won at the end of the fight, but he was talking about how he had practiced what to do when he gets dazed like that. And I'm like, damn, man. I'm like, how do you practice that? Do you get pieced up? Do you get knocked out?
Exactly. Someone hitting you and then all right, focus now.
Yeah, that's wild, man. So just to think that, and I think there was also a couple of what's the name? A couple of Izzy's training partners that were fighting on this card. One of them, his name happened to be Blood Diamond. I believe he lost. And then the other guy's name was Carlos something, and he won by decision. Carlos Oldberg. And there's one thing happening right now. Since we'll talk about Adesanya right now. Adesanya was able to weather the storm. You can say Whitaker, and I will say weather the storm was because Whitaker was the one kind of coming forward the entire fight, for the most part.
Yeah, Adesanya was very conservative. I mean, he was taking out the legs.
Oh yeah,
how he usually does, and. But also he wasn't I feel like he was very conservative. He wasn't very aggressive. And also, I mean, he says it's part of his stance. We talked about a little earlier of him, putting his hand over his glove, making it look like it's broken and applying pressure on it. But at the same time, I saw him use it, Yeah,
he did still use it a lot.
At the same time, I did see him, there was a takedown that Whitaker does, and he uses that hand to hold himself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if it was broken, he can't hold the weight of his body on that hand.
Yeah, incredible takedown defense by Adesanya, too. He repeatedly did got right back up and whatnot.
Yeah, there was a few moments, that he did get taken down and he was just get back up. There was even dramatic ones where he just ran to the fence completely, and then as soon as he got to the fence, he's get back up.
Almost nearly choked out.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He did what
He tried to mount him.
He tried to mount.
Just like Oliveira.
Oliveira did
Whitaker
a Poirier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Whitaker got up there, but he couldn't lock it. He couldn't, complete it. But yeah, man, it's a good fight. I don't think there would ever be a third one for this. I mean,
he said he'll give it to him if he's able to again
to maintain his position.
Yeah, type of thing.
Yeah.
I the way I see Adesanya, I think he's going for that title defense record that
Anderson
Silva set. Yeah, at 11, I believe. So I think he's gonna go. I think right now he's currently
he's 2 less. I remember.
Nah, I mean I think on his streak he's 2 less, but the title defenses right now he's defended it so far against Romero, Whitaker now, Vittori. No, against Whitaker it was just once. He fought him twice, but defending the titles.
Yeah, you're right.
So it was Romero,
Paulo Costa,
Vittori, Whitaker. So yeah, he's defended it so far 4 times. He needs to defend it 7 more times.
Yeah,
I can see him doing it though. If he wants to go back in there against Cannonier or Strickland, in June, that'll make it 7. He fights one more time, I think, at the end of the year, like the end of the year December card. I was about to say Barcelona because I saw it on that fucking list. The December card or something like that. I think he can make it 3 fights in 1 year. That'll bring him up to 8. And then the following year, maybe 2 more times. And by the time he wraps up his UFC career, he can have those title defenses. But yeah, that's one thing that Adesanya is just showing himself as a technical, sound fighter, and he continues to do so. But when he needs to bring out those bombs, he will. But moving on to
football.
But before we get there, something that's gonna happen. I think the UFC had to postpone one of their fights because next week it was supposed to be just Dos Anjos fighting up against Rafael Fiziev, but they moved that to fight, and they're gonna be fighting the same night that Masvidal fights Covington, which will be on March 5th. Saturday, March 5th. But before that fight, which is going to be the fight I'm about to mention is 2 weeks from now on February 26th, is going to be when we'll probably see Khabib in the UFC again as a coach, obviously. As a coach, everybody relax.
Yeah, he already said he's not fighting again.
He's going to be coaching the one and only his cousin Islam Makhachev versus Beneil Dariush.
And he started his own promotion, Legal FC.
Well, he's been a part of it, as you explained in the thing. This was the first one that happened to be here in the U.S. And they got an arena and all these things. But very interesting that what Khabib is doing over there.
He says he's becoming the new Dana.
We'll see. He says he's gonna learn a lot from Dana. But this whole Beneil Dariush versus Islam Makhachev, that'll determine the next title challenger. I know Justin Gaethje is about to fight against Oliveira, but if Islam wins this, he's easily going to be the next one up in line, and that's going to be very interesting to see.
I think you take Dariush.
Dariush is a very interesting fighter too, man. Because he has grappling as well, and he has all these tools that.
Yeah, he has several. I've seen him fight several times. I mean, he has a lot under his belt, but I think Islam can take him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's possible. But yeah, man, there's just some good fights coming up, y'all. For sure in the next couple of weeks. So if you're a UFC fan, obviously check it out. If you're not, and you're ready for some violence, check it out. Cause man, there's so many names. Like just this one right here, Edson Barbosa versus Bryce Mitchell, a kickboxer versus a jiu-jitsu phenom, bro. The reason I say this is because this is the only guy, Bryce Mitchell. He's done this one thing called the twister.
Journeyman.
Do you know what a twister is, bro?
Yeah.
This guy literally torques your whole torso, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the only one that's done it in the UFC, and he has 2-3 of them. He's the one that wanted the camo shorts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have that coming up. So, man, in another news, on one side of LA, we have championship going on, people riding, fake Rams fans over there breaking into shit.
Hey, we also need a parade.
They have one on Wednesday for the Rams, by the way.
Hey, by the way,
I mean we have one.
By the way, they were already at Disney today, and they were already parading there.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is what LeBron James said, right? Where he's like, we should have a parade, a triple parade, right? Where it's the Dodgers, the Lakers, and as well as the Rams, all in a parade for the city, which would be interesting. I would love to see that and see if they're able to do that.
Yeah, that would be perfect because, and what sucks is that, for example, for the Lakers, there's only 3 players from that championship squad that are on the roster right now.
On the current
that's the one thing that they run into. But I heard a good idea from John Ireland where he was like, you put the float out there, and on one float you have Aaron Donald with Anthony Davis, so you have both ADs together, And then you have in another float you have Matthew Stafford, which with the guy that he grew up with, which is Clayton Kershaw. You have them out there on the float, and then you also put he said LeBron James, who's more of a out there guy, with Cooper Kupp, who's more reserved. And just mixing them up like that, certain players and whatnot.
Or with OBJ.
OBJ. Put Mookie Betts with OBJ, and things like that. And I think that'd be good. You should do. You put OBJ with Kershaw because they're both the injured ones. I don't know, but Kershaw was actually good for that one. He got injured this past season. My bad, Kershaw. You were good. OBJ.
He still haven't renewed his contract.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. I mean, they're in the middle of this whole CBA thing. Yeah. But yeah, that's gonna be that right there. But Lakers can't be thinking about parading right now because
they didn't do no trades.
I mean, yeah, and I think since it wasn't gonna be a blockbuster trade, I don't think it was so necessary to go out and make a trade. But they're just on a
there was an offer, right? There was an offer from the Rockets.
Yeah, but they wanted too much draft compensation that the Lakers just can't afford to give right now, especially for someone like John Wall. Like if it would have been Damian Lillard, for sure, take that draft pick from 2027. But it's a different thing when you're talking about John Wall, who's like almost a mirror image of Russell Westbrook. So that's the one thing that I think we had to be a little iffy about. But since the trade deadline, which was on the 10th, we the day before we lost to the Blazers in a close game. Our last win as of right now has been to the Knicks. The past Saturday, which when we were watching UFC right before it really kicked off on the main card, we were watching the Lakers and the Warriors, and man, that game was just
intense.
Like emotionally kind of draining in a sense because the Lakers would be winning. They had that, and it's just the second opportunities that they're giving the Warriors, which you just don't want to do. Give them second opportunities, and then every time they would get that rebound, it would go straight to the 3-point line, and Klay Thompson would be like wide open, and it was just bang, bang.
And then that last minute moment where LeBron shoots a 3, gets the free throws, and you're thinking, if he makes these free throws, we get to go to overtime. And then he misses the first one.
Bro.
And then you guys
as soon as he missed that first one, dog, I just thought of like Kobe, bro. And I was just like, man.
I need a free throw shooter.
Like the thing about Kobe, bro, he made a free throw feel like the most like
easy thing.
Not even that, but those moments where it's like
crucial.
Yeah, bro. Like you just need that free throw shot, bro. Like the game is on the line. Like there's so many games, bro, where I remember Kobe, his shooting maybe wasn't the greatest, but he would go in and get that contact, bro, and he'd just be having like 30 points just from the free throw line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the game could come down at 3-4 points, and then he's at the free throw line at the end of the game to win the game. And that's just the cold-bloodedness that man had in his veins, man. And it's like I miss seeing that thing that Kobe had where the game is just on the line and just one shot, either if it's a fadeaway, but most of his iconic shots have came at the free throw line, and I mean that when I say, his first bucket in the NBA, free throw. When he scored 81-point games, the last point, free throw.
Free throws, yeah.
When he passed Jordan, free throw. When he final shot of his career, free throw. You know what I mean? And it's just the moment and just the look in his eyes, the follow through,
calmness,
everything.
Yeah.
And
versatility.
The greatest thing about it though is when he's at that line and the crowd chants MVP, MVP, and it's just like, that's Kobe to me.
Yeah, and then we got LeBron, who's not a great free throw shooter, and just breaks our whole hopes down.
Yeah, and it's hard to, in a sense. I mean, I'm gonna give LeBron his grief for it, but at the same time, it's like he does so many things for this team right now that it's like it's hard to be like on him for a free throw, but at the same time, it's like, come on, bro.
The game. It was the game.
Like, come on,
that was
man.
the end, bro.
Like,
That was
jeez.
it's the moment you need to come clutch.
Especially when it's a game that close and it's you have the potential of tying the game.
Here's the other thing, right?
Like, that's one thing for sure I've seen Kobe do. Tie the game, take it to overtime, and win it. I'm like,
all right, here's the other thing I would just like to throw. What if the NBA came up with, like, you know how we were talking about a pitch hitter, a free throw? A free throw hitter, dog.
A designated free throw
shooter. And you can't bring that player back into the next dead ball.
Hey, and he's going somewhere.
What if they could?
Somewhere.
Like,
who takes the shot? Who takes the shot then in that case?
It's just like he just comes in for that purpose. That's it.
Monk?
But
like,
I'll give it to AD to take that free throw.
And just be like, all right.
Monk as well, I could say.
Like, you could only do it in like the last 2 minutes of the game or something, you know? Like, wouldn't that be wild, dude? You could put your best free throw shooter.
That would basically debunk the hack and Shaq that they used to do back in the day for Shaq. I mean, and Dwight Howard. for Shaq and Dwight Howard. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing, man. We'll see. You have to see.
I just thought about it right now because we were talking about that.
No, that's interesting. But the Suns are on a 5-game winning streak right now. They're sitting at 46-10, comfortably in the first seed, with the Warriors 4 games behind at 42-15. Man, the Lakers right now 26-31.
They're still in 9th.
They're in 9th
or
place.
They dropped to 10.
They're a game and a half behind the Clippers. 4 games behind the Timberwolves. So right now they're in the play-in tournament. But man, the Lakers are just it's tough. It's tough being a Laker fan right now, guys. But this is when we bleed purple and gold the most as a Laker fan. We ain't gonna like, how you say, I'm not gonna bow to another team and start repping the Clippers or the Warriors.
Like all these other
people did for so many years.
Even if they do bad,
I'm gonna live and die on this hill for sure.
Yeah.
But coming up, the Lakers have the Jazz on Wednesday. They had a cool little break from Saturday to Wednesday, so I hope they get to.
What if the
regroup a
Lakers
bit.
could get Mitchell next year? I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
I don't know, man.
We need something.
Be interesting.
We need something.
Rob Pelinka's gonna have not a hard job, but a tough time. So he has his hands full. But for sure, right now the Lakers have the Jazz coming up on Wednesday.
All those people lose their contracts. He has barely any trade pieces, so yeah, he has a hard time.
And then following that, we have another game versus the Clippers, where the Lakers can hopefully bring that back. Then we got the Pelicans, the Mavericks, and then on March 3rd, we have another face-off with the Clippers. So I'm hoping that in these next 5 games, we can at least go, 3-2, hopefully beat the Jazz again, shut the Clippers up, go show her the Pelicans how we do. And yeah, man, they just have to get this momentum going, man. And I think that right now they got really flat when they lost against the Trailblazers, when Russell Westbrook went to the sideline and he had to bring up LeBron's head, and seeing that, I was like, man, that sucks. But the team just has to rally up right now. And I'm not saying they got to go win a championship or nothing like that. But, man, just rally up for the city of L.A. You just witnessed another team in L.A. win a championship, maybe in a different sport, but you just witnessed that.
That's the will, though, man.
And
the will of one man revitalize the whole team.
Yeah, so that should be able to.
They got to have someone like that in the Lakers who, has that will to, we got to win this.
That right now, in my opinion, that falls real heavily on Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis.
And we'll see if they.
LeBron James has thus far done his part so much.
Malik Monk has done his part.
But as the superstars and the leaders of these teams, Anthony Davis, needs to do it. Needs to really be the one to hold this team accountable.
Hold the mantle.
And Russell Westbrook, like, bro, you here in LA now, like, you're in your hometown, like, don't
you
make
want
this,
him to play like he played in UCLA.
Don't make this be the what people remember you for, man. Remember that you were able to rally up. If he has to take the 6-man role, just take it. You know what I mean? That's what I just think about with the Lakers right now. But they'll figure it out. But for now,
I have a quick question. Whatever happened to Kendrick Nunn? Still
He's
injured?
been injured. He's still injured, bro.
Yeah, that was a failed experiment right there.
Damn.
Well, he wasn't injured when we got him. He got injured after.
He got injured in the preseason,
yeah,
like, practicing. Oh my God! By the way, I just looked him up. The report says Kendrick Nunn expected to make his season debut in late March.
Bruh. Well, the season's almost over.
Straight up, pretty much. And then we also have the All-Star game coming up on February 20th. Let me see where I had that. Yeah, right here. So we have the All-Star game coming up February 20th, and I think I spoke about it last time how I think that LaMelo Ball is going to be, he was named an All-Star to replace Kevin Durant, since Kevin Durant's going to be, I think, still injured for that. But that's coming up on the 20th of this month in Cleveland. Team LeBron versus Team Durant. On Team LeBron, we got LeBron, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Stephen Curry, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Jokic. On the other side, with Kevin Durant, we got Joel Embiid, John Morant, Jason Tatum, Andrew Wiggins, and Trae Young. So they had to plug someone in since he's not gonna play. So just with that lineup, who do you guys think?
LeBron James.
With Curry and company.
Yeah.
That's gonna be ridiculous.
LeBron James.
So the reserves for Team Durant are LaMelo Ball, Devin Booker, Rudy Gobert, Zach LaVine, Chris Middleton, DeJounte Murray, Karl Anthony Towns, and Draymond Green. For LeBron, it's Jared Allen, Jimmy Butler, Luka Doncic, Darius Garland from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, and Fred VanVleet.
Bruh.
LeBron.
I left one name out because this is something I want to talk about right before we end our NBA talk.
The other James.
Right before we got to the trade deadline, and
KD was like, I don't wanna take him.
Harden was traded to the
Philadelphia
Sixers.
76ers.
Along with Paul Millsap for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond, along with some draft picks. So following that, we had the captains choose their squads
And
on
KD
TNT.
was like, no gracias.
Yeah, and then that whole thing happened, and he had the option of choosing Harden on his team, and he declined, and now James Harden is going to be on Team LeBron. So what do you guys think about that?
That
Beef.
LeBron James wins the All-Star like always.
Now, who's going to be the All-Star MVP? Who's going to win the Kobe Bryant trophy?
Probably Giannis.
I got DeMar.
DeMar's not a bad option.
Giannis.
I'm just thinking of someone that's going to get a hot hand and just shoot, make.
Giannis.
I think it's Steph Curry.
Or Jason Tatum.
I mean, he didn't even play hot last time when they played together.
What do you mean? LeBron kept setting him up like crazy.
Yeah, but he only played like one quarter, like a few, like 2 quarters. He didn't play the whole game.
I don't know. I have to look that up. But Jason Tatum's on the opposite squad, so if Kevin Durant wins, they'll be able to do that there. But we'll see what happens there with those two teams. They'll most likely face each other at some point in the playoffs, I would assume. But now take us down.
Hey, real quick, I want to show the viewers. This was Mauricio after LeBron James missed that first free throw on Friday.
So we'll be posting that. We'll see. I can see it some more. But yeah, man, let's take me down.
To the soccer league.
What can I go
to my break heart.
Take me down to Southeast London, bro. And
well, technically this is in Manchester, sir.
well, take me throughout the whole island or peninsula, whatever you want to call it. Is it a peninsula or is it an island?
It's an island.
Right? It's a huge giant island.
It's an island broken into there. That's what it's called, the UK, the United Kingdoms, right? Yeah.
Took me a long time to really get that.
Yeah, that there's a bunch of little
that
kingdoms.
that London is a city.
Yeah, and it's and part of England.
And part of England.
But there's also Scotland. There's also
Scotland.
Ireland. Yeah.
There's
also Wales.
And then even within England, like Manchester's also a city, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you see all that stuff. Like that's crazy. And then
Liverpool is also
Ireland is technically not part of the United Kingdom, right?
Well, it's part of it's in the geographically there, but it's not part of England.
Northern Ireland is.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Scottish.
Exactly. And then Wales, that's all there as well.
That's very interesting.
I was today born when I learned that.
Today born. Today years old, you mean?
Yeah, today's years old.
So yeah, Man U, it's scary. Ronaldo has gone in a drought of, I believe it's 6 games without scoring a goal. And this is the first time that he's gone on a drought for this long since 2010. This weekend.
How many games? My bad, sorry.
6.
6 games.
That he hasn't scored a goal. And that's the longest he's ever gone since 2010.
I was going to say something inappropriate right now, but I'll keep it to myself. Yeah. Man, that's a lot of games, bro.
Without scoring a goal, yeah. Especially for a top guy like him.
Damn.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like when Messi went to PSG and he struggled a bit not to score a goal.
It took him, I believe, almost like 10, 12 games before he actually scored one. Yeah.
Well, that just speaks right now to the funk that Man U is going through, man. And it's would you say it's very, very reminiscent to a team back home?
Yes, man. It's crazy because Man U, like if you look at it on paper, it's a phenomenal squad. But the fact that they can't get the coaching right, they can't get the coaching staff correctly. They can't. There's a lot of things that has to do with the board members and stuff like that, and the vision of where they want to go. Because the thing is that the team is owned by Americans, so they know they know how to market the team.
Like Stan Kroenke, who just won the Super Bowl owning Arsenal.
Exactly. So like they know how to market the team, and they know how to get the ads and and the commercials and the brands and all that. But when it comes to the identity of the soccer, like the team suffers a lot. And also too, it all depends on like what manager they end up getting, in the off season. But this weekend they went to 5th place. They got a tie. They couldn't close the match. They had so many opportunities at goal. And they couldn't do it. So I was upset, but I was like, hey, it is what it is. Hey, we'll see what they continue to do. Real Madrid ends up tying this weekend as well. I mean, they were 3 points ahead. But the tie keeps them at 4 points.
Who'd they tie with?
They tied against Villarreal. But it was important for them to get the points because the team that's behind them, which is Sevilla, was actually they were a game ahead, so it was only a 3-point difference. Now they've all played the same amount of matches, and now it's only 4 points difference. If they would have won, they would have had a 6-point gap. But since they didn't, it's a 4-point gap, which puts them in a crucial spot because they could end up losing that first position if they don't win the next game, and then they got to bank on Sevilla losing, so to create the gap again. So we'll see what ends up happening with them. Barcelona also ends up tying against Espanyol. Espanyol was, doing everything they can to try to win the game against them. Surprising for a lot of people because when they played against Atletico Madrid, that huge display and everything, and everybody was like, oh, they're back. So to see a tie the next time around, it's like, ugh, what's happening?
What is happening?
In Serie A, which the race is very close between three teams, which is Napoli, AC Milan, and Inter Milan. Napoli and Inter Milan played this weekend, and they ended up tying, which then freed up the gap for AC Milan, and now AC Milan is ahead of them by 4 points. Milan? So we'll see. Maybe. And then just a little update. 2 players that were loaned out by Manchester United, which is Donny van de Beek and Marshall. Donny van de Beek is doing phenomenal in Everton. This weekend he was the player with the most passes, the most tackles. He was doing everything that they say that he in Manchester they were saying that he couldn't do. He played phenomenal in the midfield. Marshall, which another player that they were saying that he sucks, that he's not good at striking, not good at assisting. For some reason at Sevilla, he had an assist in the game for Sevilla when they won it. So it's interesting to see how like these players that were in Manchester, they were saying they weren't good, and then they go to other teams and now they're doing well.
Yeah, it'd be like that. I mean, sometimes there's players that leave the Lakers and then they're shining elsewhere, aka Kuzma. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it'd be like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you folks for listening and hear this rambling. We appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Have a good night, y'all.